Why have I never played some of the best or most popular games of all time? This is a question I get a lot, like every day. People tend to be in utter disbelief in my comment section that someone who likes video games, like myself, hasn't tried the biggest cult classics in the RPG genre. Despite being an avid member of r/patient gamers, the answer might be more simple than you think. The easiest is that sometimes video games are just too damn old. I was born in the early 2000s, so trying video games from before I was born, or when I was an infant child, didn't necessarily appeal to me regardless of the popular or common opinion. Morrowind is a great example of this. It's kind of one of my favorite RPGs I've ever played now, but when it came out, I was saying goo goo gaga and taking dumps and diapers, okay? It's not a game that was ever realistically even on my radar before I started doing YouTube. And that's an Elder Scrolls game, a franchise I actively enjoy. People have been asking me, why don't I try more widely known retro RPGs like Chrono Trigger? I swear on my parents' life, I've never even heard of that game until a few months ago. I didn't even know it existed. I think it's harder for people somewhat older than me to realize it's not that a lot of these retro games disinterest me. It's that I frankly have never even heard of them. I'm sure they're great games, but they're not something I would ever naturally stumble into. So let's jump forward a few years and talk about games that released while I could read, at least at a competent level. Witcher 3, Mass Effect, Fallout, etc. Let's say for simplicity's sake, this is like 2010 and after. I don't know how strict your parents were, but there was no way in hell my parents were letting me play these games in elementary school. I wasn't even a teenager for some of these release dates. I remember hearing the hype about Fallout and stuff at school, sure, but there was no chance I was going to be allowed to play it. I didn't own a copy of Skyrim until 2016, and even then, it was pirated because my parents would never have purchased it for me. By the grace of God, I somehow didn't download a virus, but that's just how it was. I was a child. I don't blame my parents for not letting me play those games. I would do the same for my children. I was too young to be exposed to that sort of stuff. Little bit of a tangent here, but the first M for Mature game I ever got was Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. Now, my brother and I would have still been like single-digit age here, but we were frankly bullying our parents to let us play Call of Duty because all our friends were. They didn't cave during Black Ops 1, I missed that train, but my brother and I devised a plan. A pretty smart one for our age. Essentially, we guilted them by saying we were being excluded from social gatherings between friends. They would organize a hangout date to go to the park or some shit over voice chat in COD, and because we were never present, we were starting to get ostracized. Straight up lie, we told our friends to do this, but it worked. Our parents caved and bought us MW3 for Christmas in 2011. We weren't allowed to play the campaign, but we were allowed to just do the regular multiplayer and survival since it was a little less violent and there was no swearing, which for some reason really bothered my parents. Now we're going to transition into the last part of this conundrum. My parents did not like my brother and myself being in front of a screen. What I'm about to say is true. It's not an exaggeration. We were allowed 30 minutes of screen time a day until the age of 15. Once I hit 15, my parents would allow us to be in front of our screens from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. on school days. On weekends, they would straight up shut off the Wi-Fi or electricity to our rooms during certain times and confiscate our devices. They had a whole screen time economy set up. You could do chores to earn more time, or if you knew you wanted to play games with friends one night, you could bank your time over multiple days. Looking back, I'm happy they restricted my access to violent and mature games, but this time shit felt like prison. My brother and I looked like crack addicts. We would pace and fiddle until the Wi-Fi or electricity embargo was lifted and game for as much as we could. You know when you got some shit in the microwave and it's got like 10 seconds left and you're just staring at it? That's what we looked like with our computers and mobile devices. Because of this screen time blackout system, my brother and I stuck to games you could complete in small windows of time. FIFA, I could play a few matches before the Wi-Fi was shut off, couple COD games, few turns of Civilization, Minecraft, I don't know. It forced us to play games that could be enjoyed in 30-minute or 1-hour bursts. RPGs did not make that cut. Let's pretend in Fantasyland here that my parents even allowed me to play Skyrim at age 14. For a first attempt, let's say it would take around 30 hours just to beat the main story. If Skyrim was all I played, it would take me 2 months to complete. If I played at age 16, where my time was slightly more loose, it would still take me several weeks. Playing RPGs for my brother and I was not only an impractical choice, but not a fun one either. Playing in such small, infrequent bursts caused us to forget most of the stuff that was going on. We tried Oblivion on the PlayStation 3 in like 2014. It took us days to escape the sewers, and by then, we were bored. We weren't retaining what was going on, it just wasn't working. Those are the 3 big reasons why I have such inexperience with video games, more specifically than anything, RPGs. They weren't something my brother and I would ever play, besides Pokemon of course, but that barely had a story. Hopefully this helps some people understand why I even have the channel I do. Now that I'm an adult with my own money, I've always wanted to go back and try some of the games I missed growing up. I understand a lot of people, even at my age, are in disbelief by the amount of video games I've tried, but the matter of fact is, it took over a year or longer for me to work through a game like Pokemon. I wasn't allowed to play more mature games, and I didn't have the time to spend on them either. But now I do, and I hope this video serves as some kind of explanation to the dozens and dozens of people who ask me, why haven't you played or heard of this game?